4 teams are fighting for a spot in the grand final, and time is running out. Sydney Harbour, an iconic racetrack for heart-stopping racing. National pride is at stake. Can Australia's homegrown Tom Slingsby take back the Sydney crown after Ainsley's 2020 whitewash?
It's Great Britain and Ben Ainsley who take the first victory of 2020.
Keep going. Come on! Hurry up, boys. Come on.
I love this show. Hello and welcome to Sydney Harbour, the perfect setting down under in New South Wales for the Australian Sail Grand Prix Sydney, presented by KPMG. Universally recognized as one of the world's best sailing venues with the iconic backdrops of the Opera House and Harbour Bridge, we are just minutes away from the best yachtsmen in the world going head-to-head in the penultimate series of SailGP Season 2. I'm Todd Harris, and we have 3 races today and 3 more tomorrow as they fight for the right to sail in the $1 million season final in March. And we look at the point score, this Grand Prix season could not be any closer as the fans prepare themselves for a great show. So Season 2 looks like this, with Australia, the defending champions, on top, but just by 1 point ahead of the USA and Japan sitting in that second place position. Can they make a move today on Australia's home waters? Great Britain currently lurking in 4th place on 40 points. Is this the day they return to their glory? Remember last year they had a tremendous performance on these same waters. New Zealand sits in 5th and 36. Then it's Spain in 35. Denmark still trying to figure out a few things, but they have a lot of promise on board that squad with Nicholas Sehested, and they sit with 33. Then it's France in 8th with 31 points and a lot of talent as well. It all goes down today.
The huge crowds in Cadiz were treated to a thriller when the fleet frontrunners went head-to-head in the final and charged into the first rounding mark.
How brave are you feeling, Ben? It's the voice of Ian Jensen. They're flying too high. They're going to stop. They've stopped it. This could be over. Capsize coming.
Oh, and a capsize for Great Britain in the finale. And so now it is 2 boats battling for the title.
So Australia sailed off to the win and the top of the leaderboard with just 2 series to go. But there is still no certainty to make the final, with danger waiting this week for Tom Slingsby and team if they don't score, particularly if the winds are light. Yes, windy San Francisco should suit them, but they must not slip up now because 3 other teams can snatch their place in the season final. Just 1 point back is Mr. Consistency, Jimmy Spithill, in charge of the USA. Amazingly, their record shows not 1 series win all season. Instead, they've shrugged off early season bad luck.
Bang! Crash down. That looks bad to me.
To score 4 podium places, which have been gold. No more so than in Cadiz, when their second place was within split seconds of being a disaster. Sharing second place is Japan's Mr. Inconsistency, Nathan Outeridge. The Wind Whisperer can rely on having his favorite light winds this week, and he knows San Francisco will be windy. So he's experimenting here by replacing regular flight controller Francesco Bruni with now ex-grinder Leo Takahashi, who is replaced by Australian grinder Luke Payne, all aimed at increasing crew grinding power and overall weight. Then there is the 4-point gap to Great Britain, the most vulnerable of the top 4. A poor result this week, as long as the other 3 all perform, may well finish Ben Ainsley's season. It will be interesting to see his tactics here. Will he put aside his personal rivalry with Slingsby to concentrate instead on beating the USA or Japan across the line in every race? So watch out. Over the next 2 days, we might be in for some fierce match racing. with no prisoners being taken.
And if you're lucky to get off work early on a Friday in Sydney, this is what awaits you. We are less than 9 minutes away from the world's best sailors taking to the Sydney Harbour here at the Australia Sail Grand Prix, presented by KPMG. As the Australians make their way in front of the fans on the shore who have lined every portion of it, we check in with the fourth member of our broadcast team for a report on the conditions in Sydney. Here is Lisa Darmanin.
It's a great day to be a spectator here in Sydney Harbour, but also a fantastic day to be a sailor. The sun is shining and the wind is delivering. We have 24-kilometre-hour winds with gusts of up to 33 kilometres an hour, which means there should be plenty of action. Foiling tacks and jibes are expected all over the racecourse. The wind is very patchy as it navigates the headlands of the harbour as well as Shark Island, so the teams will have to link those dark patches of pressure together. More of the same is expected tomorrow, but with bigger gusts of winds, up to 43 kilometres an hour. It's going to be all on for day 2 of racing. Things are heating up here in Sydney with the weather, the winds, and the racing.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. So if the forecasts come true, we will see all conditions, light winds, then a strong sea breeze on day 2. Spectators taking their positions and point onto the shore for a great view of the starting line. Understandably, there will be plenty of hometown support for the defending champions as they top the leaderboard by 1 point at this business end of season 2. But the light winds particularly could trip up any team and keep the top of the leaderboard wide open. Well, yesterday's practice saw Great Britain lead the way with Australia right behind, USA further back, and Japan had bad starts right off the pace, but today is a new day and an opportunity to move up the ladder.
Yeah, well, so far throughout the season, the team's been performing really well. We've had a few curveballs with all the COVID protocols to come to Sydney, and Francesco Brini unfortunately couldn't make it here, so we've had to make a few changes in the lineup. So Leo Takahashi's on the flight control for us at this event, and we've done 2 days of sailing with him, and he's picking it up quickly. And hopefully, today I can get off the line and make some good tactical decisions to make his job easy.
Good. I think yesterday the Aussies and the Brits were probably the 2 teams to beat on the water, but we had some great moments as well. Spent some time with Philippe this morning, so yeah, we're looking forward to taking another step forward.
And we've been going well in the warm-up and the practice racing. But as you know, with the league, it's so tight. The racing's so close that you can still make one mistake, and it can cost you a lot of ground and a lot of points.
Ben Ainsley's team's had a little edge on us, but we're in the hunt. We're right there close. So no, we're actually feeling really good heading into today's racing.
And the pressure really on the home team. This was earlier today as the Australians, the defending champions of SailGP from last season, got prepared to get into the water and see what they could do to defend these home waters. Well, Stevie Morrison and Freddie Carr will take a closer look at some of the stats, the front runners in season 2 of SailGP, and there's a lot of numbers to digest, which certainly pays homage to some of the best sailors in the world.
Well, Sydney is going to be the most tactical racecourse we've seen, so I am looking at the tactics so far this season. This is total distance sailed over 25 races with 8 boats starting and 8 boats finishing. A small number is good, and Australia so far has got the smallest number over the season, closely followed by Great Britain. Denmark and New Zealand doing well. If they find speed, they've got the tactics to move up the leaderboard.
Well, the fastest starters in the fleet are the Australians. Take a look at their speed at the gun. They average 1 kilometre an hour faster when that start takes place, and that ability to keep the boat at a higher speed in the tight pre-start battle shows Tom Slingsby is mastering the aggression needed in those final seconds. Some poor starts, though, across the season have dragged their average to 4th. Still fractionally better than the others in the Big Four, and that's going to be crucial on this race course today. Well, after that all-important start, the first boats to find clear wind after Steel Point could surge ahead. strategy's crucial as they approach gate 2, where they can turn left or right. Here, they can choose different sides of the course, looking for the quickest way up the leg. The boats behind can follow or try to find a better way. The approach and exit from gate 3 today will be filled with difficulty due to Shark Island on the left there. The final upwind leg means the boats have to zigzag their way up the course, trying to find the fastest path. The tactical battle around Shark Island's great for the fans to be seated out there, but a real headache for the tacticians. A short upwind sprint is the last chance for those boats behind to find a passing lane before the sprint to the finish, right in front of the fans and those all-important points. Great wind on the lake, on the harbour today, sailing's theatre of dreams.
Hey Ben, it's Freddie here. We're obviously back at the venue where you got your first Olympic gold medal those years ago and where you dominated SailGP last year. But what do you reckon the recipe for success will be today?
Hey Freddie, it's interesting. It's slightly different wind direction than what we're used to. It's not a sort of full-on northeaster, so the breeze is slightly further right, and I think it's going to make it a very different race course and something maybe some of us non-locals aren't as used to, so I think that's going to play into it, and of course the starts and this medium sort of breeze getting off the start line in good shape is going to be pretty key.
So now it's time to go racing. This will be race number 1 of 3. Remember, 3 races today, then 3 races tomorrow. Freddie and Stevie, this is so key. You talk about the position of Shark Island. This course is very unique. You guys have both been here before. You sailed here before. Very tricky conditions with the wind as we now go under 2 minutes for the start.
Yeah, with this wind direction, Todd, the breeze is blowing over Shark Island, and as we look upwind from the bottom of the course, for me that rules out the whole right-hand side of the course looking upwind. It effectively halves the boundaries. All the boats are going to be getting to the leeward gate and looking to get to the left-hand side and doing lots of tacks. Today, the boats that do well will be the boats that have really good tacking manoeuvres on their foils.
And I think you can see in this pre-start as well, they're downwind of a big headland. It's called Steel Point, and getting the boat to jump up on the foils is going to be really, really hard. That helicopter shot we had showed a very short run to Mark 1, which could suggest that the end of the start line nearer the fans on Shark Island, there's an incredible spectator fleet and people out on the water. They could get a good view with people pushing this start.
Trying to go here.
And so with less than a minute to go to race number 1 here of the Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, presented by KPMG. Let's check in quickly with Lisa Darman. And Lisa, do we have all 8 boats? Is everyone out there?
Racing is underway here in Sydney Harbour, and it's the perfect day. They're all being able to reach across the racecourse and hit that turning mark. It's a great day to watch sailing.
All right, so we are under 25 seconds to go now, guys. Stevie, Freddie, this is a critical point. You know it. We've got the full fleet out there at race number 1, Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, presented by KPMG, as we now go to 10 seconds to go to the start.
Here we go, and it's Ben Ainsley on the British boat, diving through in the middle of the line. Looks like he could be early here with 3 seconds to go to the start. Look for the line to go white. Is it clear? It's clear. Phil Roxon on the Spanish boat. Brilliant start. Ben Ainsley out of the middle of the line, off the blocks, charging towards Mark 1. Fantastic job on their time and distance there. It's now a sprint. Can Phil Robertson and the Spanish team hold on?
So Phil Robertson on the inside line. Just to his right is Ben Ainsley out on with Great Britain SailGP. Here we go to mark number 1, race number 1.
Nice job on the inside there by Phil Robertson on the Spanish team. They lead round the mark. Second place for Great Britain is Contant de Pierre in 4th, just behind Tom Slingsby and his Australian crew. This first manoeuvre, look at the British crew, leads the jibe away. Tactical, strong manoeuvre there as the crews jibe right in front of this spectator fleet on Sydney Harbour, and they'll be searching for breeze. Early jibe away by Berlin, but it's Ainsley and the British crew made that decision, and it's boat speed now.
So it's Spain with the early lead, then Great Britain, Australia, and then France. We will try and let you listen as much as possible, but this would be huge, guys, for Spain, currently sitting in 6th place with 35 points.
This is where they'll already be discussing the tactics for the upwind. I expect most boats to be looking to go right turn at the bottom, so one more jibe to catapult them onto the left side of the upwind, where we know there is better breeze.
That's right, and in control at the moment it's Phil Robertson and his Spanish crew. We'll watch them jibing here. Listen on board to the Spanish boat through this manoeuvre.
Keep an eye on the speeds above the wings here. You're trying to keep those speeds as high as possible as both boats just creep under 50 kilometers an hour. A lovely job by both boats.
Going to be tight as we come into gate 2. Phil Robertson leading. Perfect ley line front Tom Slingsby, but it's not quite enough to dive ahead of Ben Ainsley at this point. First place for the Spanish crew, second for Ainsley on the British boat. Slingsby straight into attack out of the mark. Aggressive manoeuvre by the Australians, but they perfectly pulled that off. Stayed on the foils, and they're splitting away, looking for fresh breeze on this upwind leg.
So Slingsby does get a little bit of traffic as he heads to that side of the course with those in the back. And guys, speaking of those in the back, as we get a good look at Great Britain with a problem on that maneuver, you got to look at the USA and Japan out the back in 7th and 8th respectively.
Yeah, it's a poor jibe by the British crew there, Todd, as we see the ladder lines showing us the way up the course. The boats are heading from right to left up the course. Spanish crew of Phil Robertson has stretched away there, but he's feeling he's got to push. He's not fast enough there. We heard Phil Robertson push, push, push.
Don't have too far to go this way. Dig ready now.
That's the voice of Florian Trittel on the Spanish boat. They're talking about the wind shift, a righty. It means the wind has turned them away from the mark, turned them to the right, and they'll be looking to use that to try and shorten the distance, as those ladder lines show they're some 50 metres ahead at the moment and going well up the course.
Well, it's early in the race. As we mentioned, the USA and Japan in the back. It's early in this race, race number 1 of 3, but this would be a monumental move for Spain. Their best performance so far, guys, was in Italy at event number 2 when they finished in 2nd.
That's very interesting manoeuvre there by Ainsley and the British. Yes, they want to get to the left-hand side of the course, but it's early on in SailGP Sydney, but they slammed attack in the face of the Australians. Is that a sign of the bigger picture overall season?
That's a classic match race manoeuvre by Ainsley. Look at him, he sat right on the wind of the Australian crew. Blocking the wind means you're going to slow them down, and we can see that in the speed on the top of the mast, travelling at some 3 kilometres an hour quicker than the Australians.
And as we said, coming out of the start gate, it really does look like you don't want to be going anywhere near the right-hand side of the course, and Shark Island is all the action on the left-hand side.
Final manoeuvres into the mark here as we see the British crew setting up for attack. Phil Robertson and his Spanish crew quietly going about their business. That yellow line you can see there, let's remind ourselves, that's the ley line as the Spanish ditch the bow into the water. The ley line means you can make it to that next gate with no more manoeuvres should everything stay in place. Some 130 metres ahead up here. They're talking of a nice gain on the Spanish boat. I guess... Oh, there's no need for me to guess. Just listen to Phil Robertson there. He's thinking of a left turn at the top. No. Oh, he can't make his mind up.
This is the umpire's penalty, Japan, relative to the USA.
The crews are
well,
trying.
Phil Robertson's going to get pressure, isn't he? I mean, look at the rest of the fleet. Look at the Kiwis have made a big play, guys, into 4th now, and they're starting to put pressure on Australia and Great Britain, who are all chasing Phil Robertson now as they go through this next gate onto leg 4.
It's tight here. Look at that. Starboard advantage is with Australia. Ainsley now on the inside. He will gain the rights. All these other boats must keep clear. A lot of action coming in here. Could get busy for Craig Mitchell, but no. Ben Ainsley sneaks around the mark. Brilliant manoeuvring there. And it's Slingsby on the Australian boat that stays on the foil. He'll be the fastest as he's up and foiling, but on the inside it's Ben Ainsley. Tactically great manoeuvre there. The bar of soap in the middle there was Peter Burling, and he's been spat out the back on the Kiwi boat as Slingsby and Ainsley renew their battle on this downwind leg after gate 3.
And after some great match racing here, this is amazing. Sorry about that, Freddie. As these three have their own little private battle through that last gate, Phil Robertson now is putting distance on the rest of the field.
That was really interesting there, Todd. Out of that second gate, it was a race to get back on the foil, and the British were the slowest as they got to that gate, but they did a very, very nice job of accelerating and also stepping down the ladder, the white lines that we were seeing on the racecourse.
On board with the British crew here as they come out of that jibe. I think Tom Slingsby and his Australian crew are doing a great job. They're always on the back foot, but they're keeping it tight, sailing the boat really, really fast. And as we see the Spanish there on the right-hand side of the screen, jibing, one more jibe on this downwind leg, but they're stretching out, they're sailing. Look at that, look at the percentage of race fly time in the bottom corner there. Spain staying on the foils 98% of the time, and what a shot that is. Sydney Harbour, the F-50s charging down here, and this, what a battle between these two great champion teams.
Well, it has been a long layoff since the last event number 6. It was the Cadiz Sail Grand Prix, and it was Australia that won that, and the Aussies looking very good right now in a good battle with Great Britain, New Zealand, but it is Spain that'll make the first turn as they get through gate 4.
Well, it's a real sight as to how if you can be on your own and sailing free, you can just sail fast. We can see the British boat and the Australian team, they're slowing each other down in this spectacular fight that's going on as they turn upwind. It's surprising to see the Spanish go all the way to that right-hand side. There's been a bit of a problem for wind there. Once again, straight into the tack. The JK manoeuvre by Slingsby and his Australian manoeuvre to do another upwind leg here to go. We're at the halfway point in the race right now, and the Spanish have a good lead, but we can see on those ladder lines, it's closing up. The British have made a small gain, and don't imagine Slingsby's gone anywhere. He's going to be right in this as they head up this upwind leg.
Well, I've got a little theory this weekend, Stevie, that because of the overall season battles that are going on fundamentally between Great Britain, Australia, Japan and the USA, that will allow boats like the Spanish and the Kiwi boat just to sail a little bit free, maybe getting a bit of open water, and I think boats like that could really blow the overall seasons apart as they get a good result here in Sydney.
Right now it is Phil Robertson out in front, coming up on 200-meter lead over Great Britain. Remember, this came from the very start, guys, when he got the lead at mark number 1, and he's sailed a pretty flawless race here. Now, he's got a lot of pressure behind him. And let's also take a look down the leaderboard. The USA and Japan currently tied in 2nd overall. They hold down 6th and 7th. A lot of work to do.
200 meters ahead on the Spanish boat there. As we see in the background, Australia and Tom Slingsby. Well, he pulled an aggressive maneuver at the turning gate at the bottom, but he now has the advantage. Look at this ride height in the top left-hand side of the picture there. They're flying the boat higher on the Australian boat. Jason Waterhouse, the flight controller, doing a great job. But look, these two boats, they're on a piece of elastic, looking for boundary tacks to come up, and it's who's going to execute it best.
Well, look at these two boats. They are stuck together like they're on a piece of bungee. Their stats are pretty much identical. Both boats, both crews are being sailed at 100%. We're going to be seeing this all weekend.
Fellas, would it surprise you at all if this was the same thing that plays out in the final race tomorrow between these three, Spain, Australia, and Great Britain?
Not at all now. Look, Ainsley tacks. He has the advantage. Tom Slingsby has to respond to him. Tacks away perfectly again. That's two pretty much perfect tacks on those boats. You'd need the absolute data to spot any mistakes in there. But look, the heel angle on the British. The boat leaning towards them straight out of the tack, and they're 3 kilometres an hour faster. But Slingsby sailing the boat closer to the wind, pushing on Ben Ainsley here and his British crew. It's going to come down to one more tack in at the top. It's still tight. That's the voice of Ben Ainsley, 1 and in, expecting a left turn again from the British. As Phil Robertson, he's running along that yellow line. He's in good shape on the Spanish boat.
This is outrageous watching Great Britain and Australia. It's like watching the Red Arrows. It's like a synchronised flying team. They are both absolutely on the rivet.
Advantage here with Tom Slingsby. He's done a great job. He's talking about a Chicago, which I think is going to be a bear away early jibe here for the Australian crew. Ainsley tacks away, pushed away by Slingsby. Brilliant work from the Australian crew up there. Can they pull off a quick jibe at the top here?
2, 1, angle, my wheel, yep, gotcha.
and calm amid the chaos, and we have got ourselves a cracker here on race number 1, day 1. Spain has the lead, and Australia and Great Britain are changing positions as we now go on to leg 6.
Sorry to interrupt there, but in the background, the Australians had fallen off the foils in that jibe. They got stuck under steel point and not much wind. We see in the background there's the Australians. Bit of a loss going to have taken place here. The ladder lines show that the left turn at the top was advantage Great Britain. Phil Robertson has lost some distance. Ainsley's in a dark patch of water, more wind, and look at that. In the blink of an eye, it's a 200-metre change of distance. One mistake, that Chicago just did not work for Australia. As Ainsley jibes, match race jibe from Phil Robertson. It's all action on this downwind leg. Who can stay on the foils? Who can keep it fastest? It's tight at the top.
And the jibe data there, the Australians' slowest moment in the jibe was 30 kilometres an hour, and the British team was 50, and that is why we've seen the massive step out.
Spain looking for their first victory. They would love to get something big here in Sydney over this next 2 days, and right now this is step number 1. An absolute great race as Spain comes down, and they are making their way down. We're being told now they're finishing at the next mark, as Australia now has issues with Denmark, who have moved ahead of them.
The umpires, penalty Denmark relative to Australia, penalty Denmark relative to Australia, winded boat knock.
And a penalty to Denmark.
All right. Rounding up in 10.
There we go, get ready for the roundup from the Spanish here. Looks like Phil Robertson's giving a bit of room for Ben Ainsley and the British crew here. British crew dive inside. Oh, it's tight round there. Lead change, though. Ben Ainsley and his British crew take the lead. Tom Slingsby, look how much he's lost there. That was a close finish with the British to take the race victory there. Spain, second place. And it's Tom Slingsby coming across the line in third. Wow, it's going to be tight with Denmark. Can Sehested dive for the line? It was like a lunging 100-metre sprint for Sehested. I think he will have got through for fourth, just ahead of Peter Burling.
What a change of events as Great Britain looked to be settling for second place. Spain looked to have control of this race, and then when the shortened announcement came, it was Spain looking to react a little bit late as the USA comes in 6th.
Well, that was really, really tight at the finish there, Todd. That certainly was good. That's the voice of Ian Jensen.
Oh, that was tight.
Just shows you in these gusty conditions, it's going to be the blink of an eye that mistakes can happen. A bad start for Outridge and the Japanese crew, and there you go. It's hard to make it up in the quality of fleet like this.
Well, it's one bad jibe, isn't it? It's one bad jibe on the Australians. Maybe they jibed in a lull. We know that their boat speed plummeted and their bottom speed was low. Maybe they didn't get the dagger board on the lock. But one bad jibe, when everyone's firing like they are, as they will be at this end of the season, you're going to lose places.
Well, let's take a look at the results. This is just race 1 of 3 today, and then 3 more tomorrow. As they regroup, we give you the final results of race number 1. It is Great Britain that gets the victory, Spain, and then Australia, followed by Denmark. What a performance for them. Not the best showing for the USA and Japan.
My favourite bit of the race, without doubt.
All right, fellas, let's take a look at the key moment. What was it for you, Stevie and Freddie?
Let's have my favourite bit of the race was this windward mark where all 3 boats came up together and absolutely went round that mark together. It was fantastic racing, and that's what we're going to see for the next 4 races. And at this moment, I was a bit worried for the British. They were off the foil, they were down speed. They did a nice job of popping back up and stepping down the ladder and went on to challenge Spain for the race win.
Season 2 of SailGP has been a memorable journey.
They are going to be the winners here in Bermuda. What a comeback from Ainsley.
Cracking race. That was awesome.
And the celebration can now begin in earnest on Japan's SailGP as they get the victory here in Italy.
We're obviously very happy to move up the leaderboard.
Out the race! Bill Robertson.
There's Robert.
They did the best job of the day to win this event. Absolutely unbelievable race.
We just had enough room and we nailed a perfect jibe and able to hold them off, and we're ecstatic.
They were the winners in Plymouth back in July. Do they have enough breeze to carry them to their second overall victory here?
Fortunately, the last race went our way. We got a good start. We just were able to sail away.
The French Riviera will belong to the Japanese as Nathan Outridge will claim his second win. Congratulations, Japan SailGP, as they claim the France Grand Prix.
We're really happy with how we sailed all week. Really proud of the whole team.
For the drivers, it's a whole new set of conditions from yesterday as they are anticipating a hard day's work on the Atlantic.
Oh boy, my pirate bones are twitching today. This is going to be a proper standout day in the whole of season 2.
The boat suffered extensive damage. You can see the top part of the wing completely ripped off. The Spanish boat out of racing.
Oh, in too high, look at the slot. They've stuffed it. This could be over. Capsize coming.
Oh, and a capsize for Great Britain. Now it is 2 boats battling for the title. Congratulations, Australia takes the Spain Sail Grand Prix.
Game of survival today, and very happy with our team. We did an amazing job and took the win.
This is going to be absolutely brilliant. I cannot wait.
One race complete at the Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, presented by KPMG, and there's a race within the race. It's the Impact League, and this is where each of the 8 teams participating in Season 2 of SailGP try to do what they can to reduce the carbon footprint as these world-class sailors travel around the world and try to make the world a little nicer place. It's all part of the race for the future.
So we're down here with the youth sailors at Wallara Sailing Club, and we're here with Parley and really just educating the kids on how they can reduce their impact on the environment.
The next generation, they're the gatekeepers, I guess, for solving this problem. And, you know, we probably needed to be better educated when we were younger, and so it's our responsibility now to educate that next generation.
So it's not just the F50s that are racing out here in Sydney Harbour, it's also the Inspire race programme where we invite the best young sailors from around Australia to come and show off their skills in front of the world's best sailors. So here they are getting ready to go in their WAS, and they're sailing on the same race course as the SailGP athletes. What an opportunity for these young sailors to show their skills in front of the world's best.
Well, of course, this start was all important as we pause the action here and we look at the Spanish boat, Ben Ainsley's British crew and Contan de la Pierre. They really held control of their start line well. The 15 seconds to go, you've got to find your gap. Ainsley diving through the middle of the line. Spain, he's right at the bottom of the line with control, and de la Pierre kept his options open. Now, 13 seconds, we can see the Japanese stuck out the back. That's what's made it hard for Nathan at the back here, and here comes the British crew as they're coming in through the middle of the line here with 2 seconds to go. Watch for the line to go white. We pause the action. Perfect starts from Spain and Britain, and that was it to mark 1. Of course, this line was crucial for that sprint, and it ended up bringing us the results at the end of the race that we found.
I want to remind you about the championship scoreboard here in season number 2 with just one event to go. It is Australia, the defending champions, on top by 1 point. USA and Japan sitting in second place, but not a great showing in race number 1. Great Britain sitting in 4th on 40 points, then New Zealand, Spain, Denmark, and France. So there's a situation coming in to the Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. Everyone looking for some big points. You do not want to leave work left undone before they make the turn back to Central California, I should say, and San Francisco for the $1 million race and the title to be handed out for season number 2. So Australia on home waters looking to defeat the rest of the field and claim the title for a 2nd year in a row, which they would do in San Francisco. So a great race for Great Britain. It all was with an amazing start. Sir Ben Ainslie at the helm for Great Britain SailGP. I think we have him now. Ben, take us through that start and the critical nature of how important that start was and the conditions. How were they out there for you today?
Yeah, it was tough conditions out there, and start's pretty key. But we managed to wiggle through, find a good gap, and we had an okay start. The Spanish had a good start as well, and just got inside us in Mark 1, and then it was a real tussle to get around the course and against the other boats. And I think the first win with Mark, or win with Gate, we had a real tussle with ourselves, New Zealand and Australia, and we just managed to get inside. Great race. Right, take that.
Ben, thanks for your time. We'll look for you in race number 2. So Ben Ainslie and Great Britain with a great start, but not enough, paying homage to the performance put up by none other than Phil Robertson in Spain, as they put on a dominant showing in that race, and a great bit of match racing between Great Britain and, of course, Australia, the defending champions.
SailGP uses award-winning live-line graphics to display the racecourse on your screens. Using augmented reality technology, the boundary lines, turning gates, start-finish lines, and ladder graphics are overlaid onto the racecourse. The fastest way for the F-50s to navigate the course is to sail at an angle of 45 degrees to maximize the power they gain from the wind. And to illustrate who is ahead, the ladder graphics are overlaid on the racecourse. The ladder lines are spaced 100 meters apart, allowing us to easily see who is ahead no matter which direction a boat is traveling in. In this example, the Japan team on the right is in the lead, followed by the New Zealand team and then the Danish team in the middle. On the left-hand side, you can see the Great Britain team have some work to do to catch up with the USA team following behind. Here you can see that the New Zealand team are leading the Great Britain team, even though they are sailing in different directions, as the New Zealand team have made more progress up the ladder.
So set to go now with race number 2. Remember, we have 3 races today, 3 races tomorrow. A little bit of housekeeping. On closer review, it is Spain that gets the win in race number 1. Great Britain finishing in 2nd and Australia finishing in 3rd. So that changes things, as Phil Robertson's got to feel pretty good about things heading into race number 2, which is coming up in just about 90 seconds. So under 90 seconds to go, fellas, what did you learn from race number 1, and what do you think they should apply to how they race this second one?
What I saw from race number 1 and rolling into race number 2 is how big this start box is. That's the hard deck that all the boats are circling now to get themselves ready to launch onto the race course. It is a big area to play with, much bigger than somewhere like Saint-Tropez. The other thing on this hard deck, this place where they're lining up for the pre-start, it is very gusty, so it's very easy to get left behind on the train to the line. I think you want to stay quite close to the line, reduce your risk of getting caught in a lull, which is an area of no wind, and get yourself in a good spot to kind of launch onto the race course. Maybe take distance to the line over speed at the gun.
We're on board with the USA there. We see Shark Island, all the fans in the background, and that end of the start line has been favoured there. That blue triangle there suggests the favoured end. The fleet are earlier back. Slingsby, an aggressive move down the line here. But is he a bit early? He slams the boat up into the wind to try and kill some speed. And it's Phil Robertson on the Spanish boat and the New Zealand team at the bottom end of the line. How's their timing going to be as they're trying to come in here, control the speed? It's going to be Australia in the middle of the line. Great Britain looking for the pole position spot out of the top of the line there. Here comes USA and Jimmy Spithill. Watch for the line to go right. Over early. Australia, America.
Penalty USA over the start line.
Off by a half a second. The USA went aggressive. They needed a result, and they get an early penalty.
Well, and it's Japan at the bottom end of the line there. The Japanese, they timed it perfectly.
Penalty Spain relative Japan. penalty Spain relative to Japan.
He needed a big start, and he's got it on the Japanese boat. Spain have got to drop back 2 boat lengths relative to Nathan Outridge, and he's going to take a while to scrub that penalty off here relative to them. Great Britain and Ben Ainsley round in 3rd place, and it's Delapierre again doing a good job 4th at the mark as we set up for the first jibe on board Japan. It's the voice of Chris Draper steering after the jibe. Good angle.
Very nice job by new flight controller Leo Takahashi. I think if you looked at all of the crewmen and women across the fleet this week, that guy has got the most pressure on him, stepping in to fill in for Francesco Bruni, and they need to do a really good job with their foiling manoeuvres to stay ahead in this race.
Boy, the Aussies and the Americans could not have had a worse start. It looked like Jimmy Spithill and Team USA were going to bounce back nicely, but just about a half a second too early.
They were just a bit early. That's the voice of Nathan Outridge on the Japanese boat there. They were talking of a 1-and-in right turn, so we can expect one more jibe at the bottom of the course here. 50-metre lead already for the British crew. They're setting up for a jibe. We expect Ben Ainsley and the British crew to follow. Here they go. G-force on the crew there as they jibe. A little bit later jibing on the Japanese crew there of Outridge. Who's got the ley line right? If Ainsley can dive inside, he'll have an opportunity at the bottom of the course here, but Japan should be coming in faster. Probable lead for Nathan Outridge around gate number 2, but Ainsley just trying to dive inside here. I think Outridge is far enough ahead on the Japanese boat. He sure is. He turns up. And 3rd place again, Phil Robertson. Is he your spoiler, Freddie Carr?
He could well be. He could well be. Do not forget that Phil Robertson was leading this overall series after 2 regattas, has then had a bit of a shocker, but he's going to feature, no doubt.
Oh, Ben Ainsley on the British crew. Look at that. He's tried to pull off the JK tack. He's run right into the congestion. He's fallen off the foils, and they're going to be slow. This is a big, big loss of distance coming for the British crew here. Still not foiling. Still not foiling. That was a rushed manoeuvre by the British, and they're going to pay a big penalty for it.
So at gate number 2, things should shake up just a little bit. The USA still sits in 5th place, now dropping to 6th. It's Japan, Spain, and Great Britain who have their problems, and they now drop back to 4th.
Trying to go fast into the next shift. Yeah, pressing a little bit then, buddy.
That's the voice of Chris Draper there, listening to Nathan Outridge, pressing into the next shift. He talks about the wind is changing direction all the time. Try and find a gust for more wind or sail a shorter distance by getting a better wind shift. We can see Outridge. Big lead this early on in the race, but it's Phil Robertson, the big mover here, as Ainsley. He's been sucked back into the pack after that, and we look at the ride height. Well, New Zealand flying the boat highest, and look, they are fastest on the screen at the moment. Higher out of the water, less drag, and it's the New Zealand team making a move early on this first upwind leg.
Boy, Pete Burling and company can certainly use a tremendous result here and try to get themselves into the final tomorrow. Remember, it's 5 races for the entire fleet. The 6th race, only the top 3.
It's a great overhead view of Sydney Harbour here as we see the speed on the boats there.
This is the umpires. Penalty USA relative France. Penalty USA relative France.
Costly mistake there.
Penalty to the USA.
Big costly mistake. He's on port tack, didn't have the right of way.
GBR relative France. Port tack boat not keeping clear.
So if you're on starboard tack, you have the right of way, and Britain and America were both on port tack. They'll have to drop back 20 metres relative to France here on this upwind leg. And it's Outridge, though, looking at those ladder lines. He's some 50 metres ahead of Phil Robertson, but the Spanish boat is fast. They are not slipping back here. Penalty still needs to be lost from Great Britain at this moment in time. And USA, they're struggling to burn it as we see the Japanese approaching the boundary. They'll be looking for one more tack here and hope to make the top gate. There's the ley line, the yellow line suggests they're going to make it to gate number 3 here. Are they ahead of Spain? Wow, it's tight. Phil Robertson is going so fast on this upwind leg. Florian Trittel, the wing trimmer, and Diego Botin on the flight controller. They've got this Spanish boat dialed in today. They're the fastest boat on the race course at the moment. The speed they're moving around the course is impressive.
There we go.
So Spain looking to back up that first place finish in race number 1 with a second here. They're trying to reel in Japan, who sits in first place. Great Britain and the USA right now in their top 4. New Zealand's dropped back, then it's France, Denmark, and the Australians with a terrible showing here in race number 2 on home waters.
And look at the race fly time there by Leo Takahashi, 100% as the pressure comes on. He is responding with really nice flight control.
Gate 3 here, crucial moment in the course. Early tack here from Spain, and Outridge will need to respond with an early jibe. It's a bit of a risky mover for the Japanese here. This was where there was a big change in distance as the Spanish tack away, looking for more wind. More wind with 1 lap to go. It's a great opportunity for the Spanish here, but it's Outridge, well, the wind whisperer himself. Looks like this time he's found some breeze, and as the pack, look at that pack, it's going to be so tight at the top here. Who's going to sneak round gate number 3 in third place? Anyone's at the moment. Ainsley tacks. He's dropped back a lot, but Spithill, he dives inside. Burling must respond by keeping clear. It's so tight as they come into the mark here. Burling's got a tricky position, but he dives ahead of the Australians as third place for USA. The French, Delapierre, dives inside. Wow, just inside Sehested. And in last place, it's Tom Slingsby, the hometown hero. He's got some work to do on this downwind leg.
Well, that's a tricky spot for New Zealand to jibe in. Really tricky spot for New Zealand to jibe in there. They were out by themselves on that side of the course, and there's a potential for 3 boats to roll over the top of them.
On board with Australia there. That's the voice of Kyle Langford there, talking to Tom Slingsby there in the back of the pack. Hard to find much room and much opportunity to use their famous boat speed here as we see Outridge. Well, there's plenty of boat speed on that Japanese boat, some 200 metres, 250 metres even ahead here as they set up, trying to keep it simple. Little bit of a mistake on the board up there. This windward hull touched the water, but it was pretty good from the Japanese crew as they come down to this turning mark again. They're going to move around this gate. They can turn right or left, but it looks like a right turn at gate 4 for Japan, and they've made a nice gain on the Spanish down here.
New grinder, Luke Payne on the front there. Payno, as he's known to his mates. Not only has he brought a little bit more power to the front handles of the Japanese, and we've been talking about their potential lack of power all season, he adds a bit more body weight. When you have more body weight on the side, it adds more righting moment, that gives you more speed. So some pretty interesting changes on the Japanese right now is paying dividends.
Japan has the lead here in race number 2. This is like 5 of 6, so it's down, make the turn, and then it's a shot into the finish line. It looks like Japan's going to get this win. Spain in second. The USA guys have done a masterful job. Jimmy Spithill is already up to 3rd place after a 6th place finish in race number 1.
Yeah, big moments in the race here. 3rd through to 8th. This is the dogfight. This is the race that could really set your weekend up. Big moments for the hometown team, Australia, as they're trying to pick through from last place.
Going to be very tight here. It's 3rd place for the USA, but Ainsley managed to find some space and get here. Look at that. The Kiwi crew, New Zealand, have to go slow, trying to get into the yellow zone, but they can't quite make it. That's going to be a big loss for New Zealand. They'll fall off the foils. They will drop to 8th. Sehested turns round 5th. Contant Delap takes the left turn here. Here he goes, turning round the mark, and it's Australia up to 7th. But the New Zealand crew of Burling, that was a bad jibe, and it's cost him dearly. This last upwind leg of the course here, the crew's trying to find space, trying to find wind, and well, it's not easy when you're back in that pack. Spithill really did a masterful job. We come back.
Meanwhile, towards the front, Japan out of there. Japan has the lead. Sorry, Stevie. Japan has the lead. Spain in 2nd, USA in 3rd. There you see the distance to the leader on leg 5 of 6, race 2.
Huge gaps out there, Todd, at the moment. With great conversation with Outridge and Draper here. On board the Japanese crew. They're sailing the boat upwind. They've got space. They've got time, and that's Chris Draper saying nice mode there, Freddie. That means he feels like he's got the boat progressing up the course as fast as possible. Close angle to the wind, but a fast boat speed.
Perfect moment to to point you towards SailGPinsights.com. That is where I'm getting a lot of my data. Go to SailGPinsights.com and get all the live readings off the boat. The real interesting thing for me on there right now is wind speed. You can read the wind speed of all 8 boats and see who's in the best pressure on the race course.
Right now, best of everything seems to be Nathan Outeridge and Japan Sail GP. They'll make this turn, and then it's a shot towards the finish line. What a great race. Remember, Japan finished in 7th place on race number 1, and this will be a nice bounce back for them.
What a way to deal with the pressure, Todd, really. I mean, we've had a lot of expectation on this Japanese team, and what a way to come back after a tricky first race. It's a bit of a showboat into the crowd here off Shark Island. Hometown, don't forget Australia. Sailor Nathan Outeridge is going to want to do well. He might be on a Japanese team, but there's Jimmy Spittle, Nathan Outeridge and Tom Slingsby all would say Sydney's their home.
So race number 2 at the Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney goes the way of the Japanese as they get the win. A nice bounce back from race number 1. The consistency award so far here in Australia has to go to Spain. A 1st and a 2nd in the first 2 races.
Just coming up through the gap into the other side.
That's right, as we come in here at turning mark 5 into the finish, we're back on board with the Spanish. It was going to be tight at the top with Britain and USA as we watch here. Right of way is with Great Britain. Spittle dives behind him, but can he make the mark? He's dived inside, looks to head up. Now he's first inside the circle, so Spittle owns the mark. It was a great manoeuvre from Jimmy Spittle to avoid collision with Great Britain and then dive inside. Cemented 3rd place as we see back in the pack. Still sitting, I think, in 7th place at the moment will be Tom Slingsby. It's tight here for, oh my word, Spittle's got to keep clear of the boat with the right of way there, Peter Burling, but it looks like Australia and New Zealand could be finishing in 7th as 8th as Ainsley makes one last charge towards the finish line on Jimmy Spittle.
Spittle keeping an eye on Ben Ainsley just off his back, and it is the USA that will get the 3rd place position. Those huge points for the Americans because they finished in 6th in race number 1. Now the drag race is on. Denmark, France, and look at this. The Australians and the Kiwis bringing up 7th and 8th.
Shows what a tricky race course we've got here. If you don't get off that start line and you find yourself in the pack, it certainly is a really hard race. Tom Slingsby was nearly back in that race. One small manoeuvre and there you are, 7th place. Burling fell off the foils at that final bottom gate and it was so costly. Mistakes in this quality of fleet really do matter.
That's interesting. That was the voice of Tom Slingsby saying we've got stuck foot buttons. They use their foot buttons to drive the dagger boards, drive various aspects of the boat. We know that Tom Slingsby had a lot of bad luck in Saint-Tropez with gremlins in his systems and he finished last, and that is not a nice thing to have going on your boat. They've called for the pit crew to come on board and resolve it, and I'm sure Lisa will keep us updated.
Doesn't get much better than this, guys. Look at the viewing opportunities you have here in the Sydney Harbour, whether it's on the water or on land. What a great race as the Americans bounce back to finish in 3rd. Spain holds on for 2nd, but the race belongs to the Japanese and Nathan Outeridge in front of this tremendous sailing-loving crowd of Sydney in the harbour.
I feel like my key moments all day are going to be the gates. I mean, this is just incredible, seeing all 5, 6 boats coming up together to the gates. And it's not how you go into the gates that's necessarily going to determine where you finish. It's going to be how you exit. And I think the leeward gate, the first leeward gate, is absolutely crucial today. And we saw the British had a really sticky first tack out of that leeward gate, and it cost them dearly. They rebounded to 4th, but you've got to get that first leeward gate spot on and try and get ahead of the dogfight.
So a beautiful day in Australia. We've got 3 races on tap, 1 more race still to go, but 2 races down, and the Spanish look to be the team to beat.
SailGP Season 2 is now reaching boiling point. 6 races down, 2 to go, and there's still 4 teams left in the hunt for those coveted spots in the grand final.
Look at the speed, 98 kilometres an hour!
Absolutely unbelievable.
But the Australian Tom Slingsby is used to this kind of pressure. He took the first ever championship at the grand final in Marseille back in 2019.
Australia is the 2019 SailGP champion.
Tom Slingsby is a fighter. He's an Olympic and America's Cup champion. He's an 8-time laser world champion, a multiple Moth world champion, and he's won offshore races. So in that context, it's no surprise that he's been crowned 2021 Rolex World Sailor of the Year, a title that he'd already won back in 2010. There is no doubt that Tom has proved himself across the entire spectrum of the sailing world. But now in Season 2 of SailGP, he's got to defend his title against easily the most gifted sailors of his generation, maybe the best the sailing world has ever seen.
It's been a question for a long time, who's the best sailor in the world? And you can make so many different arguments, but now that we're all in the same type of boat, equal boats, equal playing field, it's quite an interesting storyline.
On offer this season is a total of $2.1 million in prize money. There's $1 million alone on the line for the grand final in San Francisco. And yet I think this victory is more about street cred, bragging rights, legacy, call it what you will, than it is about money. Because now the greatest sailor of all time has entered the scene.
Well, here we go, and of course the start here was crucial. We see that blue pole position there. Early back was Tom Slingsby trying to control the fleet, but the trouble with being early is that you've got to sail slowly to burn that time, and it was Japan out the back of the fleet that had more options of where they could run. New Zealand controlling the bottom of the line, but it was Outeridge with a long run up, looking to bend his run in, keep the speed up here. We see already foiling is Japan, but it's Australia having to sail slowly in the middle of the line. Now, can Outeridge and the Japanese crew find a gap? It's close, it's really close, but as he dives in here, Jimmy Spittle's over the line early, and as we stop the gun, we can see perfect timing by Phil Robertson, but it was Outeridge coming through fastest who led at Mark 1.
So let's take a look at the scoreboard. Remember, 3 races today, 2 complete, and it is Spain by consistently being at the top with a first and a second. They lead 15. Great Britain sitting in good place, though, in second with 12 points. Japan, by virtue of that win in race number 2, they sit in third on 10 points. And then Jimmy Spithill is tied with Denmark, Australia, New Zealand, and France with one all-important race still to go here in this beautiful Sydney Harbour. Well, it's very unusual in top-level sport to find competitors able to see the performance measurements of their opponents. But in SailGP, there's no such secrecy. All teams can see each other's data, which should help keep teams close in performance. It's a real advantage for the teams that are lagging behind. Analyzing that data is the team coach, and it's a 24-hour task that comes to a head when the racing gets underway for real.
So we receive millions of data points via the Oracle Cloud. That data goes directly into performance feedback. You know, we get such a large amount of information from all the boats that we're continually reviewing that data just live and back at the base. So the data we're looking at while we're kind of live on the water, you can pretty much look at anything. There's sensors all over the boat, but the basics will be VMG. So, just looking at the speed we're making up the course, going to the next mark. We're looking at just straight line speed, the angle we're sailing to the wind, and then, you've got a whole host of other information, whether it's the wing setup, so you've got twist, the camber, how powerful the wing is, and everything that's going on under the water. and we'll review that data and where we can make improvements, and then we'll try and put that into place. We can basically review live on the water what the other teams are doing. So we'll have templates set up to, just see what we're doing. If we have a lineup against another team, we can see our setup, we can see the other boat setup, and that helps us tweak what we're doing on the boat to try and make gains all the time. So, everyone's learning from each other and the performance is stepping up all the time. And, that's a game changer.
So the all-important third race coming up. We heard at the end of race number 2, Australia having some issues. For more on that, let's check in with Lisa Darmanin.
Australian accidentally locked their board down button, which means their manoeuvres were really messy. So the tech team has been deployed to try fix that. They don't want them to fix it, they want a new one.
All right, well, that is going to be very interesting. Thank you, Lisa. As we go under 3:45 to go for the start of race number 3. Guys, what do you make of this trouble that Australia is now having?
No, I totally understand them wanting a new button. There's nothing more frustrating when you're sailing a precise instrument like the F50 is, and you've lost confidence in your kit. And they've lost confidence in that foot button, and it is an all-important foot button. And it's very, very easy to change out. They should be able to change it out pretty quickly.
Well, it's real confident sailor, Tom Stingsby, as well. Of course, he's fresh off the back of winning the Rolex World Sailor of the Year award, but he does like to sail with confidence. When he is confident, he's brilliant.
And race 3 for them today is a big race. They are already a little bit gapped off against the British and against the Japanese and the USA, their main rivals. They don't want to be finishing in the back 4 here. It could set up a tricky day for them tomorrow. So a big race for the hometown team.
Stevie, Freddie, what do you expect now as we go under 2:45 before this third and final race? What do you guys expect here? Because there's a lot of teams out there that are desperate for points. So are they throwing caution to the wind, or they have to play it safe because tomorrow's another day with 3 more races?
Well, I think there's kind of 2 styles of approaching the racing here. We've got the 4 boats that we're talking about right now that, in my opinion, are in the overall season mix for making the grand finale in San Fran. And then the Spanish, I thought there'd be a team that would come out and sail with the pressure off, with the handbrake off. Don't get me wrong, the Spanish mid-season has been terrible. They've been through bad decisions and bad luck, but they're now sailing free and easy, and they've got a 1 and a 2, and they could be the boat that really blows Sydney wide apart and really blows the overall season wide apart.
I think it really suits the style of Phil Robertson, though. The start is quite crucial there. You heard him already. Fighting for the pin is the language from Phil Robertson there. So he is being aggressive. Outridge was aggressive in that last one as well. He swings the boat around. He had a great start. And Leo Takahashi, we can see just getting out of the cockpit there. Well, he's starting to feel those big boots that Bruni isn't able to take on at this event.
Yeah, he did a very, very good job there. Pressure on in race number 2. And if you fall off the foil, you're going to lose places. Keep an eye on the Japanese starting style. They are late chargers, and we've seen that throughout the season. If they get it right, they hit the line at speed and they go on to win the race. If they get it wrong, as we saw in the practice racing yesterday, they had a terrible day. So really keep an eye on the Japanese boat in this pre-start, and let's see if they can get their time run perfect.
So it's 1 minute away from the third and final race of day number 1 of the Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, presented by KPMG. And everyone now looking for that sweet spot. Stevie, we saw the Americans get aggressive. Jimmy Spithill does not want to be shut out of the top spot tomorrow, especially on that last race. So does Spithill do what he did last time? Maybe a 1.5 seconds shorter, and then he won't get that early penalty.
Well, I don't know, but what I have seen is Nathan Outridge was definitely listening to Freddie Carr right then, because he's just led the fleet back, takes the charge. Now, Outridge controls the start here. I like where Phil Robertson and the Spanish boat is out the back. Japan leading the fleet back early. Spanish team have control of the bottom end of the line at the moment with 19 seconds to go. I think Outridge and... Oh, my Lord! No! The British crew have crashed. They had no rights there, lost control of the boat. There's going to be disaster for the Japanese and the British British there. That's unbelievable. You've got to be kidding me, says Nathan Outridge, and I can quite believe that. There goes the gun. Phil Robertson and the Spanish boat did have control. Brilliant start by the Spanish. Brilliant start by Tom Slingsby, and it's Peter Burling third off the line, but that is not the story of that start. A massive miscalculation from Ainsley, and there is no bow on the Japanese boat. Disaster for the Japanese team.
So for Japan, coming off a win in race number 2, they are now literally dead in the water, as is Great Britain. So instead of 8 boats racing for mark number 1, it is 6.
That could be a season-defining moment. That could be overall points lost for the British in the overall scheme of things that could potentially rule them out. Stevie, take
here
us
we
through
go.
the replay.
Come back on board here now. The British crew must keep clear, but look, they fly the boat too high and they fly it right through the bow of the Japanese crew there. I think it's cut the bow off the Japanese boat. We're on board at the back of the Japanese boat. Look at the British boat leap out of the water, and look at that. Oh my Lord, the forces involved there, unbelievable. Watch the foil on the British boat, right-hand side of the screen. It's going to cut into the Japanese hull. Look at the load there. Arms up, unbelievable.
Stevie and Freddie, was this a case of Ben Ainsley paying too much attention to keeping Jimmy Spithill at bay, and they did not pay attention to what was in front of them?
I think it was just a basic mistake there, and well, the ramifications of that are going to run long. But as we come back to the race course here on this first downwind, someone that's going to look to take charge of that is Phil Robertson and the Spanish crew. As they set up here, look, they're leading the fleet today. Let's not forget how brilliantly this young Spanish crew are sailing. And this could be opportunity. There's 2 of the top 4 are out in this race. Will they be able to sail tomorrow? Who knows? Phil Robertson, perhaps it's not over for those out of this big 4 and getting to the final, and Tom Slingsby back in the game.
Well, just to keep an eye on the overall standings, Japan was tied for 2nd place with the USA with 44 points. Great Britain was sitting in 4th with 40 points. And guys, I don't know if Japan's going to be able to sail tomorrow as we focus our attention on this 3rd and final race, and it is Spain out in front with Australia, the defending champion, sitting in 2nd.
Great downwind leg and a great start to the leg from the Spanish crew there. Tom Slingsby turns up wind in the background. Out the back again, it's Burling. He missed that jibe, and here it's tight. Coming in at the bottom, the French crew diving inside the Danish. It's a tight for an overlap. The French have the rights on the inside as Denmark spin up round there. Great work by Quentin de la Pierre, and it's Peter Burling trying to get inside Jimmy Spithill. Wow, the big favourites in this event so far are struggling with the pressure out here on the water, because Jimmy Spithill back in 6th place at the moment, and here goes Spain moving upwind.
So as this race continues on, race number 3, we are able to now be joined by Nathan Outridge on board Team Japan. And Nathan, from your perspective, what did you see?
We saw Ben Ababas get completely out of control, and his whole hull landed on top of ours. I'm still shocked that no one got squashed there. As you can see, we've got no bow left. The boat is completely damaged. I can't imagine we'll be out here tomorrow. It's just reckless sailing, unfortunately. It really ended our day.
Nathan, it's good to hear that everyone's okay, and that's in itself a miracle. But is this in a situation where you had nowhere to go? I mean, obviously you didn't see this coming. It's something that Ben wouldn't normally do.
Well, you know, we had full right away being the leeward boat there, and you know, we could see the boats all coming down at us, and clearly he either didn't see us or just didn't expected us to give way to him. But it's definitely ruined our boat and ruined any chance we've got of winning this event. So it's extremely disappointing. We put a lot of hard work, and bad first race today, really good second race, ready to capitalise on that, and now we're just hoping that this thing doesn't go to the bottom out here.
All right, Nathan, take good care of everyone. We'll talk to you later on. Thanks for your time.
Wow, you really could not write this, could you? As we come back to the water, talking not being able to write it, look at the boat speed on the Australian boat. Big lead change here, 100 metres ahead, as Phil Robertson in 2nd, dropping back. But this race, wow, it's tight in the fleet, but there's more drama far away from it.
Well, the other team involved in that initial incident at the start of race number 3 was Team Great Britain, Ben Ainsley. Wow, tight quarter racing, Ben. Everyone wants the same line. What happened out there?
Yeah, we just didn't see the other boat. We were focused on America a little bit early for the start at the top end of the line, and the first time I was aware of Japan was someone said, "Oh, you got the other boat," which no idea they were there. So that's certainly our mistake, and I certainly hope all the guys on the Japan boat are okay. And yeah, frustrating for both teams.
Ben, we just spoke with Nathan, and we'll just tell you right away, everyone's okay on the Japanese team. How about your squad? Is everyone okay? Anyone injured? And what's the state of your boat for possibly racing tomorrow?
Yeah, that's really good to hear. Yeah, no, all of our team are fine. I don't know about the...
Well, that's dramatic scenes out here on the water. And we see with 1 lap to go, it's Tom Slingsby. He's done a masterful upwind leg here. Look, he's jibing in that dark patch of water above the fans on Shark Island. Jason Waterhouse there flying the boat through the manoeuvre. And well, the Australians are moving away, but the consistency today is Spain. The Spanish crew still in second, sailing brilliantly.
Well, that new foot button that's gone on board the Australian boat must be a fast foot button, because it's turned their day around. I said in pre-start it was a big pressure race for them, because they were about 6, 7, 8 points off the top 3. Obviously, with the incident between Japan and Great Britain, it's spun the world on its head, and on top of that, Australia are leading this race.
Might have to have Lisa check it and make sure they didn't add a turbo, because this is a whole different race for Australia. Remember, they finished in 3rd place in race 1. They finished in 7th in race 2. If they can get a 1 or a 1st or 2nd here, they are going to be in business. Meanwhile, the USA sitting in a good spot as well. Jimmy Spithill has them currently in 2nd place, fresh off that 3rd place performance in race number 2.
Yeah, fantastic work by the American crew. They found a bit of space through the middle of the pack. There was obviously a lot of wind shifts happening on that upwind leg when we were away, finding out that everyone was okay on the Japanese boat. But it was Tom Slingsby and this Australian crew that maximised those wind shifts, got their boat fastest, and look, as soon as he's out in front, this Australian crew just looks class, quality, eyes ahead for the Australians as they are just flying away at the front of the fleet. Phil Robertson dropping back at this moment in time on the Spanish crew. It's going to be interesting to see how they can keep this going. They need to get the momentum going forward, as we're going to be on the final upwind leg very shortly. Only about 4 minutes of this race left, so every move now is key.
Just coming in a little low.
Australia, USA, and Spain has dropped back to 3rd. Denmark in 4th. New Zealand and France, Great Britain, of course, and Japan out of this race. Freddie, I got to look to you, because you're always quick to have the abacus. This is huge for Australia, the leaders right now by 1 point, but you take out 2 of the top 4 teams, and there's a good chance they can't even sail tomorrow.
No, 100%, and this result for Australia, if they finish 1st, will move them from 6th overall up to 3rd, and only 3 points behind the USA and Spain, who would currently be on 13 points.
So through gate number 4, as we said, it's a 6-leg race right now as we go on board Jimmy Spithill and SailGP USA.
Setting up for attack on the American boat there. That was Paul Campbell-James, the wing trimmer, sent down to leeward as he tacks the boat. He'll be now steering. But we hear Tom Slingsby there on the Australian boat saying the breeze is definitely better left. So to the left of the screen, they see more wind. They can't actually see the wind. They'll see a darker patch on the water, the effect the wind's having on the water. But they've got the time to read those conditions, and they're looking for more wind, as more wind means the boat's going to go faster. That's going to progress you up the course quicker.
These F50s are absolutely amazing. Look at the speed, 2nd place, Jimmy Spithill, over 50 kilometers an hour going upwind.
It really is quite amazing, Fred, isn't it, when you see these boats flying around the harbour here. But that's a big lead. Even at these speeds, it's Tom Slingsby and the Australian crews to lose, really, here. We see there a gust of wind, that dark patch about to hit the boat. Expect the boat to accelerate here. Little ease on the wing. Boat accelerates forward, and they're locked straight back into position, up to 50 kilometres an hour so quickly. Should be just one more tack required for this Australian crew. And we're looking at how high the boat flies out the water. That's a fantastic camera angle. The higher they can get the boat out of the water, the faster the boat's going to go, and they're doing a really nice job in this race on board the Roo on Sydney Harbour.
absolute class right now for Australia Sail GP, the defending champions from last year. Tom Slingsby in full control of this race as he took over on leg number 2 ahead of Spain, who have now dropped back to 3rd with the Americans sitting in 2nd.
On board there, that's the voice of Paul Campbell-James on the American boat. He's just trying to make sure Jimmy Spithill keeps the boat fast enough. Look, they're all keeping as low as possible, trying to keep the windage down. One more tack to go. It's an improved performance for the American crew, but it's not going to be enough here. They're too far behind Australia. This final turning mark, and then that sprint to the finish under Shark Island.
Okay, turning down in 2, 1, coming down.
Pretty nicely done there, really, by the Australian crew. And, well, that was a textbook race. Well, it was a great recovery, Tom. Quite right. On the back foot after that last one, but as they come into the finish of race 3 here, just 11 minutes of racing, and it's a race win for Australia. Fantastic work for the crew there. Nice tonic to finish the day with. They'll be needing that. The home fans are going to be boosted by that, and a great bit of momentum to go into day 2 and the final day of racing at Sail Grand Prix here in Sydney. As we watch the Americans and the French, wow, you don't need the drama like that late on in the race there for Jimmy Spithill. That'll get the heart rate pulsing as they come in.
Really impressive.
There you go, Jimmy Spithill and Paul Campbell-James on board there. The voices we heard on the American crew.
Congratulating rookie, who is Andrew Campbell, and he's their tactician on board, so they must have been really impressed with the way that Andrew Campbell got them around the racecourse.
Nice.
So, guys, you've got to be thinking stock up for the Americans with a 6th, then a 3rd, then a 2nd. The Australians do a great job of bouncing back. And there is Japan. We have now been told that they have been stabilized. So, to Nathan Outridge's point, they will not be sinking to the bottom of the Sydney Harbour. That boat has been stabilized by one of the shore crews, and so they will bring them in and immediately go to work. But some heavy damage there as Pete Burling and the Kiwis will come in 5th. The French look to be holding down at 6th place.
Todd, they're about 3 or 4 miles from where the base is for these boats, and they're only going to be able to slide it sideways. We can see the speed of the Kiwis as they cross the finish line here. It's going to be a long evening to get that Japanese boat safely back ashore. New Zealand, well, they're not going to be happy. Peter Burling, he was hoping for great things here. And Quentin de la Pierre, well, it's a 6th place finish. But again, still room for improvement. It was an amazing day's racing, but the drama at the start of that, wow, what a story.
Nice effort, boys.
Well, boat of the day for me is pretty obvious to say is Phil Robertson. He's sailed really well. The pressure's been off Phil, but he's had a fantastic day. All of his results in the top 3, and the rumour going around the paddock is that he might have secured a seat for next year. I don't know who with, but that might be why he's buoyed and sailing so well. Well, there's only one place that we can look for a key moment, and that could be a season-defining key moment, in all honesty. It was the pre-start incident between Great Britain and Japan, and we're just going to take a little look at this incident from all from all angles. The interesting thing was that Ben just said we did not see them. We were defending against the Americans, and we did not see them until we're on top of them. The standout thing there is just how high they were out of the water. It was a big, big leap as they tried to turn back up. Very interesting to see it from this angle. Wow, I mean, that is absolutely massive. The bigger decision will be is what the season penalty points will be on Great Britain. It could write off their whole season.
Well, that was a definite Captain Obvious key moment of the race. It became before they even crossed the start line.
Here we go, and we pause the action. 22 seconds to go. We see there Great Britain. Ben Ainslie talked about being distracted by his battle with Jimmy Spithill. He's trying to push over the top of him, but it's Nathan Outridge who is the boat to leeward. He has the right of way. Ben Ainslie is the windward boat. He must keep clear of the line that Nathan Outridge is sailing. We see here the boat flies high out of the water as we pause the action. Well, that's just not okay. He's mounting the Japanese boat, and that impact we've seen cut the bow off of the Japanese boat. Incredible scenes, and what a disaster for the Japanese crew.
Well, there it is after 3 races. It's Spain on top, then Australia, then the USA. Freddie, I don't want to say you're a genius, but you saw this coming with Spain.
I just think it allowed them to sail with the pressure off. I thought there'd be a boat that would get right in amongst the mix, amongst the top 4. Did not think today would end like it did. Like I said, the umpires have got some big decisions to make about penalty points for the whole season.
Well, the Spanish there did a great job. First race, and it's consistency there. But it was Tom Slingsby. He pulled his day around. Look at that. That's the sign of class. Australia and USA both pulling their day back through the race. It was good for Japan early on in the day, but disaster. And as we say, what ramifications is that going to have on our final in San Francisco? Huge day for SailGP.
Well, if today is anything to go by, tomorrow is going to be absolutely wild. We have 22 kilometres an hour winds with gusts over 43 kilometres an hour. It's what they call in Sydney a black nor'easter, as the clouds to the west sucks in that sea breeze. I'm expecting huge bullets of pressure that could cause havoc during the pinch points of the racetrack. It's going to be one to tune in for.
Well, if that weather forecast comes true tomorrow, we were in for a feast. As for the sailors, it does not get much better than a good, strong Sydney sea breeze. Even on the protected waters of Sydney Harbour, a nasty chop can certainly be kicked up in parts. So there's plenty of pressure on the flight controllers to keep their boats flying as high as possible to reduce drag and increase speed while not losing control, and with it, boat speed and places within the fleet.
I swear that the flight controller is the worst job of the boat. The pressure is just through the roof. The role of the flight controller is to control the hydrodynamic foils under the water to make sure the boat doesn't touch the water and is flying in the air the whole time. And the pressure when you're doing 50 knots and you've got 6 people on board, you know that a mistake from you can severely injure someone or kill someone. The risk of crashing is much higher in waves, just with the risk of obviously flying as high as possible when a wave comes along, and if that foil line comes out of the water, what will happen is the bows will go into the back of the next wave, and you could potentially pitch pole, and that is really bad. I'm looking at the leeward bow, so through the boat across the other side to the leeward bow, and what I'm looking for is the height of the bow off the water and looking for the wave pattern and frequency underneath the bow. Even though I'm controlling the dagger board, which is about 25 feet behind it, that allows me to be a bit more proactive and see what's coming towards the foil, and ideally beat what's coming ahead to keep the boat nice and stable. Essentially, all I'm changing is the angle of the foil to increase ride height with flow. The problem is that the foil is always a certain length. I think it's about 2.5 meters, and we're trying to fly it in the bottom meter, even half a meter. So the range in which I'd like to sail the boat on the foil is about this much range. The problem is when you get waves that are this big, that range disappears. And what will happen is if you try to fly it here and the wave's this big and you come out, the foil arm will come out of the water and then the boat just drops out of the sky and you crash. There's a balance between performance and risk, and I'm just trying to find that line all the time.
Well, Sydney Harbour still abuzz with the conversation of what happened at the start of race number 3. It was Ben Ainslie and Great Britain SailGP trying to hold off Jimmy Spithill and the Americans who were charging at the start. Never saw Nathan Outeridge to his left, and before he could do anything about it, fellas, he was on top of the Japanese boat. Here it is again.
Absolutely, the windward boat, Ben Ainslie, must keep clear, but look, as he accelerates, the boat flies up out of the water, and as soon as you're foiling that high, you lose control. He said he didn't see him as well, and look, he turns the boat. I mean, he clearly hasn't seen him because he turns right at him, and the impact we see on that left-hand board on the British boat, wow, unbelievable.
That was very interesting. I was looking at Luke Parkinson, the flight controller there at that moment, and he was definitely eyes out the back of the boat, looking at defending against the Americans. Luke Parkinson was looking at defending against the Americans, and I just don't think they saw the Japanese at all.
Well, the good news is crews have all been accounted for. Everyone is safe and sound, guys. You cannot say that much for the front end of that Japanese boat.
No, and look at that, Todd, there. We're on board the New Zealand team there, and it's just, that's the best thing about all of this, isn't it? Is that no one's been hurt, because when you see it from that angle, it's absolutely petrifying. And we see there, look, that's Aidan Menzies on the bow, already trying to effect repairs, get that bow off, see if they can get the bow repaired. It's going to be a huge job for the shore crew. But yeah, when you see it from that angle, the fact that no one's hurt, that's what we've got to take away. On the netting there, that's the bow. That's the old bow already strapped on. We've got that up out of the harbour and onto the bow, onto the side of the boat, and it's a huge repair. And we can see this is the speed they're going to have to progress in. 3 or 4 miles up under Sydney Harbour Bridge, past the Opera House. Massive night ahead for these Japanese sailors and shore crew.
Well, one man who may have had the best view, the best spectator view of that incident is Jimmy Spithill. Not involved in it, but he saw it firsthand. Jimmy, what a race. Tell me what you saw from Ben Ainsley and where you saw Japan and the whole collision take place.
Yeah, we had Japan in front of us, and then Ben sort of rolled over the top, and then looked like he did a sharp turn up and got really high on ride height, did a huge side slip, and obviously basically landed on top of Japan. Sounds like no one's injured, so that's great news.
Do you think this was a case, Jimmy, and I know you're quite the looker, but do you think Ben was more concerned about where you were and maybe lost track of what was going on in front of him?
Not sure, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want to try and guess, but yeah, look, you never want to see it, that's for sure. You know, it was a very big hit.
Jimmy, great day for you guys, especially when you finished in race 2 with a 3rd place and a 2nd place in race number 2. What do you expect for tomorrow?
Yeah, look, to be quite honest, I had a tough day. I just struggled to get off the start line in every one of those. So it was just the boys that really pulled me through there. You know, I thought the boat was sailing very quick. Great manoeuvres and very good tactics. So yeah, we were, but we've got some work to do. I'm going to go back and really have a good look at those with Philippe and figure out what I'm doing wrong.
All right, thank you very mumuch, Jimmy. Appreciate it. 6-3 and a 2 for the Americans on day number 1. What a showing, as we will see you back here tomorrow for day number 2 of the Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, presented by KPMG. So on behalf of Stevie Morrison, Freddie Carr, and Lisa Darmanin, I'm Todd Harris saying so long from Sydney.